Good morning, year six. I hope you're well and have had a good day so far. Today, with our poetry, we're going to push on where you've got your drafts of your poems, and we're going to try and now utilize them as the basis for um, upon sonnet that we're building towards, and we're actually building up the sections of it, and we're building up the quality of it. So now we're going to make sure we've got some alliteration as that skill within it if we think it'll be useful to create an image, create a picture in the reader's head when they're thinking about the messages that we're trying to conjure about what it is. So alliteration then is the skill that we're going to focus on today, and that's our key skill, and we're going to use it to improve our sonnet where best we can. To be successful today, we'll understand how alliteration is used in poetry. We'll practice using alliteration to set the scene for the soldiers, and we'll then alter our own poems using alliteration. So we'll try and make sure we add some alliteration if it isn't already in, and if it is already in, we'll think about how we might use it differently or improve it if we think we can. Right, guys, again, trying to recall frequently these World War One facts just so that we're really clear on them for our history, for our English, for our worldwide knowledge. Okay. Which poem, which we've looked at, has men marched to sleep, many had lost their boots as a line in? Which poem has Flanders Fields, a bit of an easy one this one, Flanders Fields crosses row and row? Which poem has in the sky the lark still bravely singing flies scarce? And which poem has and watch the white eyes rising in his face? There's a reason I've picked these four elements of these poems, and some of you, if you think back to our objective from the beginning of the session, might know what it is. But either way, can you identify which poems these are from? Number one, then, Men Marched to Sleep, Many Had Lost Their Boots, is from Torchia de Coromest. Flanders Fields is from In Flanders Fields. In the Skylark Still Bravely Singing Flies Scarce is from In Flanders Fields. And Watch the White Eyes Writhing in His Face is from Torchia de Coromest. Okay, so we've got those different poems by Wilfred Owen and by John McCrae that we've looked at. And with those poems, we're going to think about the skills that have been used there. So just have a look at those lines. Is there anything you notice about them? So men march to sleep. Many, I'm giving you a clue. Flanders Fields, row on row. Sky, the lark still bravely singing, flies scarce. Watch the white writhing. So it's this alliteration. I'll pick some elements of alliteration from those poems. Now, what I'd like you to first of all do in terms of recording for your work today is you can see here that I've listed some words. Okay, so you've got your word map down at the bottom, and you should have your word map from yesterday's work. Now, with that word map, I'd like you to think about which definition meets which word. Now, I'd meant to pop in frontline when I discussed it with you. But if you look at that, the last place your army defends, so the place where my soldiers are who are on my side against the enemy, facing the enemy across no man's land, this is my front line. This is the front of my territory, the last place we defend. Ahead of us is no man's land, and ahead of that is the opponent's space. So that's what a front line means. What's being defined when we say a blade that may be used to muzzle that be stuck on the end of a rifle and used to stab an opponent if it was hand-to-hand fighting? We used that noun in our poetry yesterday. Remember, I thought it's quite a futile tool to fight against a machine gun. What's the word which means to stop resisting to an enemy? So when you give up almost, when you say you're not going to carry on. Now, when you say you're not going to carry on, you also sign something. It might be that you're giving up and you're accepting that you've lost, or it might just be that you decide, both sides decide that fighting is no longer good. And what do we call that when both sides declare a formal truce, when both sides sign some paper which means they stop? If you're not sure, try and find those out either through a tool at home, such as a dictionary, and think about what those words mean. Okay. Thanks, guys. Now, alliteration. As I say, those four lines of poetry that we've looked at earlier, those that are now in red, those four lines of poetry all contained alliteration. So number one has the consonant M repeated, men, marched, many. Number two, because alliteration is about the consonant sound. It's not always the letter, it's the sound. Number two is Flanders Field, so F, and also row on row. Number three is that S sound, sky, still, singing, scarce. And number four is the W, The watch, white, riving. Okay, so that's that sound for each line. And they're lines from those poets, and I just wanted to show you those lines as poetry to remind you about alliteration. But we've still got that vocabulary map, and we're going to try and use that to create and to conjure up images in the reader's mind by using alliteration as a tool to describe what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're feeling as soldiers. So bayonets, as I say, bayonets are something we've touched on yesterday. You can see the bayonet on the end of the soldier's rifle. It's that spiky device which is used for hand-to-hand combat, but not much use, as we say, up against a machine gun, which have been used for many years now in fighting. Bayonets, then, as a word. So bayonets butchered. Okay, so bayonets butchered. Would that mean that the bayonets butchered people, or the bayonet bearers were butchered? But the noun there is bayonets. The verb is to butcher. Okay, so verb is to butcher. So I've got a noun of bayonet, and I've got a verb of butchered. Bayonets broken. So it could be that they were actually futile to the point that when I ran at a soldier with them, they broke off. So bayonets broken. My noun of bayonets, my verb of broken. Rifle. What could I put with rifle? What kind of word could go with rifle? What kind of verb could go with rifle? So my noun is rifle. That's the gun, the long gun that was used to shoot. If I've got my noun of rifle, what could I put with it as a verb? Rifle what? Do you know what you call it when it makes a bang? And sometimes the bang is so strong and the power for the explosion within the gun as you shoot it, it makes you go backwards. You could say it reported. So the rifle reported the bang and the power of it that thrusts you back is called it reported. So you've got the rifle reporting, the rifle reacting. Try and then the verb is reported, the noun is rifle. What I'd like you to do then is to try and think about how you can think of some alliterations. So try and pick 5 or more pieces of vocabulary from that World War One words map, and try and think about which words you could use to add a verb to if it's a noun, such as army, navy, or troops. Or if you spot a verb like fought or surrendered, what noun could you put with fought or surrendered to make it a piece of alliteration? After you've done that, we're going to think back to your sonnets from yesterday. Now, if I look at the piece of writing that I'd started doing with you, I'm sure with some of your ideas as well. So far, I'd written bayonets were empty bottles showing. Can remember that structure of A B A B. Grenades landing on and next to my pal, wanting to return home, longing, knowing. Lice here, rats there, my duty feels dismal. So dismal and pal, knowing and showing. 10-line syllables. That's where we got to yesterday. On Friday. Now, if I'm thinking about the next step for my poetry, I'm thinking, can I put some alliteration in these pre-existing lines? Can I amend them? Can I improve them? Can I finesse them? This is what poets such as Wilfred Owen, such as John McCrae, such as Rupert Brooke would do to their poetry. It wasn't an end. It was a starting point. It was something they molded, they changed, like a piece of sculpture, like a piece of work they were expressing themselves with. Empty then. I put, instead of empty as an adjective there, I change empty. We talked earlier, didn't we, about broken. So now I've got bayonets with broken bottles. Landing, grenades landing. Could I do something else? Grenades going on and next. Not sure about going. Can I change it? Grazing. If they're grazing, it means they're touching me maybe, but not completely exploding on me. So they're touching me and flying past. Grenades grazing on, not quite sure that works. I've got to make sure it makes sense. Grazing me and my pal. Okay, I like that. Grazing me. So grenades grazing me and my pal. But then is that 10 syllables? I've got to make sure. Grenades grazing me and my pal. It's only 6 syllables. So I've got to think, how can I change me and my pal? Now, as a poet, I'm thinking, what can I change about me and my pal so it has the correct number of syllables? At the moment, I've got grenades grazing me, grenades grazing me and my pal. So I've got 8 syllables. I counted wrong first time. So I need 2 more syllables, but I need to still conjure the image, conjure the picture in the reader's mind. Me and my pal. I could add an adjective, couldn't I? Me and my closest pal. I could have changed the noun for pal to an alternative. So confidant. I could have changed that. So I can alter that. Now I've got those 2 pieces of illustration in my first 2 lines. That I've got bayonets, broken bottles, and I've got grenades, grazed, and it really rolls as a reader. It makes the poem flow a little bit more. Bayonets were broken bottles showing. Grenades grazing me and my closest pal. So I'm now conjuring up an image. I'm conjuring up a picture of what it was like being a soldier in that trench. What I'd like you to do today is build on your work as well. Because if you look back at mine, sorry, I meant to go backwards there. If you look back here on my two final lines in this first stanza, wanting to return home, there's no alliteration there. It doesn't flow as well. Could I add some in? Lice here, rats there. I like that repetition of the here, the there sound, but duty and dismal feel what right, but feels. And I alter feels so it has that alliterative flow. So I've got to try and think what I can do to change it. And you hopefully have got 14 lines that you can tweak, you can amend, you can embed, you can alter. And what we're going to do with our sonnets then, guys, is to try and build on them. The way you've started them, you're going to build on them. To help you with that, today you're going to think definitions to those phrases at the top of the page, and then those examples of alliteration. So if I was doing this, the bottom table, I'd put bottles in my noun section, and I'd put maybe broken. If I put grenade in my noun section, I'd put grazing. So I'm trying to think of some verbs which link to the nouns that I've identified relating to World War II. And then, as it says at the bottom on that red writing, you've got to revisit your drafts, your sonnet, and think about how you can add some alliteration. And this is where you're going to do what I've done with the blue, red, or the blue, yellow, and green there to amend and improve your own sonnet. I do really look forward to reading your completed versions of these as well. But I'd also like to see the steps you've gone through. They could be a bit messy. Obviously, you need to make sure that I, as a reader, can read them. But as I see your annotations, your changes, I'm really interested to look at your process as a poet. Guys, I'm really excited about those. So thank you for your focus today and your listening. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye.